Okay, here we go. Chapter 4. Let's see. Granny called from the front porch as we approached the house. Just because Woodrow's here, don't think you can go out practicing your hour like always. Get you go. You got to unplait your hair and wash it before the party. I groaned. It wasn't the piano practice I minded, but when it came to washing my hair, I'd rather clean up vomit. It had been done twice a week, no matter what, and it took hours to dry. That wasn't enough. I had to brush it 100 strokes every night to make it strong and shiny. After that, Mama always rolled the ends for me on paper rollers, which I slept in. Your faces. I think, Gisela, your hair is pretty long, right? You have long hair or no? I can't see it. I can't see your face on my screen right now. Is your hair long, Lindo? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. How long does it take you to dry your hair?
Um, like dry it?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about here. Does it take you 2 hours to
I
do?
don't know.
You don't dry it? Yeah, well, this the girl here, right? So her hair's super long. She's probably never cut it, so she's got it. It takes her 2 hours to dry it. Um, yeah. So if she wants her hair to be super nice and super shiny, she does that, and then she has to brush your hair for 100 strokes a night. Do you do that, Gisela? Do you stroke your hair 100 times a night? Oof. Right. I don't know the long hair lifestyle. I'm not hair at all. See, I'm bald. It's very sad. But when I did have hair, I had awful hair. To be honest, it sucked. It was just too like thin, annoying. I had to brush it 100 strokes every night to make it strong and shiny. So this girl resents the fact that she has to take care of her hair. She doesn't want to do this. After that, Mama always rolled the ends and prepared me on paper rollers, which I slept in. My hair was a great source of pride for her. She would tell everybody how many inches long it was and how many years she'd been growing it, like it was one of her prized azalea bushes or something. To even hint at cutting my hair could spoil her day. What party? Woodrow said. What are you practicing? Oh, it's Porter's birthday, I said. We always have a big supper and cake on everybody's birthday. Hot dog, Woodrow said. And I have to practice the piano an hour on Saturday, an hour on Sunday, and a half an hour on weekdays. I've been taking lessons for Granny since I was 6 years old. You know, she was a piano teacher for 4 years, but I'm her only student now. How can she teach with her bad hearing? Woodrow said. She watches my hands when we're having a lesson, and she can see a wrong note almost before I hit it. It seems as her hearing gets worse, her vision gets better. As we reached the porch, no one greeted us. We sat down and petted her. You know, she played the piano, Woodrow said softly. She who? I said. Mama. Granny taught her to. She played so pretty it made me want to cry. Y'all didn't have a piano in that little old shack, did you? I said that, then bit my tongue at me. No, Woodrow said, seeming not to notice my blunder. So a blunder's a mistake. What mistake did she just make? Mistake did Gypsy just make? Let's see if you pick up
It's
on that. No, it wasn't a stutter. No. She talked about something that would be offensive. If she said, what did she say that would offend Woodrow? No. Exactly right. She called their house a shack, right? So if somebody called their house a shack, that's like an offensive. But the reality was it kind of looked like a shack. Essentially, it was this tiny little thing. So the fact that she called his house a shack is like offensive. Mama always wanted one. She played over at the church in Poplar Creek on Sunday. Can't Aunt Love play? No, said she never could get the hang of it. And he told me that Mama tried her best to learn, but she was so bad when she started practicing, the dogs would leave home. That's an example of hyperbole here. This is hyperbole exaggeration. Obviously, the dogs aren't there. We giggled. I did my duty that afternoon, and about 7 p.m. we all settled down to supper in Granny's dining room. There sat Mama looking like royalty, with Porter beside her, his arms draped across the back of her chair. Porter's brother, Schubert Dodson, the town doctor, we called him Doc Dot, was there with his wife Irene and two little twin girls, Dottie and Dee Dodson. Woodrow started giggling when he heard their names, so I whispered it to him. So what's Dee Dee Dodson an example of? It's actually an example of two things. Stop clicking. What's Dee Dee Dodson an example of? Dee Dee Dodson. What is that an example of? Anybody? It's what Dee Dodson an example of. It's an example of two types. No, it's an example of two types of figurative language. Which two?
Alliteration.
It's definitely alliteration, and who knows what the other one is. It's an example of repetition. Why is it an example of repetition? Because it's D. Dotson. So they're laughing at their names because they're repetitive and the alliteration. They find it kind of humorous. It is kind of funny. Woodrow started giggling when he heard their names, so I whispered to him, "That's not the worst of it. Porter and Doc's daddy was named Bobby Robert Dotson." I thought Woodrow was going to leave the table. "What are you two youngins giggling about?" Grandpa said. He was standing at the head of the table fixing to carve the pork roast. When I looked up at him with his thinning hair and wire-rimmed specs, it struck me how he favored Harry Truman. So that means he looks like Harry Truman, which I will show you. Harry Truman was a former president of the United States. This is him. This is how he looked like. So her grandfather looks like him. "Nothing," I managed to say. "Nothing," Porter said. "Well, nothing seems mighty funny to me. Mighty funny." Everybody looked at us, but nobody was mad. We were smiling and in a good mood and glad to see that Woodrow was having fun. "Well, now, Mother, is that a bottle of your homemade blackberry wine I see there on the sideboard?" Porter shouted to Granny. "Oh, Lordy, yes, I nearly forgot." Uh, Hold on, Granny said, and she fetched the bottle to the table. "Here, Dot, will you do the honors?" She set the wine in front of him. "Certainly," Dot said as he stood up to open and serve the wine. "You know, all a body needs is a taste of spirit to soothe the nerves. Sometimes a little sip from a bottle like this one in front of me can mean the difference between sanity and insanity." And frankly, Dot had a twinkle in his eye as he raised his voice for the benefit of Granny and Grandpa. "Frankly, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy." So this is a joke. He's using a play on words. A lobotomy is. Does anybody know what a lobotomy is? I'll give you an opportunity. You might not know lobotomy. No?
I know.
What is it? What is a
No,
lobotomy?
I said I know.
What? Is that a girl? No.
No, I said I know.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't know. Yeah. So a lobotomy. What do you think, Jason? You know something?
Is it one of the girls supposed to do something?
No. I don't know what you're thinking of. You're thinking of like a vasectomy or something different. Yeah. A lobotomy is basically an old, crazy medical procedure that doctors used to use. Which, once you hear it, you're going to think it's crazy. They used to cut out people's brains. So they used to take just sound listening to this was crazy.
What the?
They used to take like an ice pick and they would hammer it into people's eyes, or they would like stick a thing up the nose, or they would like literally like saw part of the brain off. The reason is that
Oh, yeah, I remember.
there were people who were had mental issues, right? So back then they thought the best way to handle it was to basically incapacitate them. I guess somebody must have figured out that if you damage the front part of the brain, that it makes somebody like super docile, almost like like vegetables, like they can't do anything. So they used to do that to anybody who they thought was like crazy. They would like lobotomize them. Um, so he's using that term to like make a joke. So this is what people used to do. So like in a lot of insane asylums and stuff like that back in the day, they used to
I
like
remember something like that. Stuff like a stick or like a stick up your brain and like stop your thoughts or something.
yeah, basically just destroying your brain. Yeah, so they used to do that back in the day. Yeah, you just might have seen it like in old movies or whatever. It's in the silent, you'll see it, but that's what they used to do.
Talking about one thing, mummies switch their brain into like slushies.
And that's something different. Yeah, you're thinking of what's the word? Embalming. You're thinking of like embalming or something. Like get rid of the stuff. Right. So we all just died laughing again because it's kind of a funny play on words. Dot was so tickled with the success that he tried again, so he's going to tell another joke. So, what does the word tension mean? Does anybody know? So it's close to awkwardness, right? Tension is stress. I think you guys all know what stress is, right? So if you're dealing with some level of stress or pressure, right? You need to know what that word means. You also need to know what the word TP and wigwam are. What's a TP and what's a wigwam? Same thing. It's a tent, right? So teepees and wigwams were the type of tents that Native Americans used to live in. Now that you know that, you can understand this joke. So it says, speaking of tension, he said, Mose Childress came to see me the other day and he said, Doc, One night I dreamed I was a teepee, and the next night I dreamed I was a wigwam. What do you think my problem is? And I said, well, Mose, that's simple enough. Your problem is you're just too tense. So the joke on this one is the fact that tense, which is like teepee and wigwam, and then you're also the other word tense, which means tension. So it's like a play on words, right? Saying that he's those two tenths. That one got a good laugh, and so went all evening. The wine seemed to loosen everybody up. Granny's cooking was blue ribbon, and even Porter didn't get on my nerves as much as usual. I caught myself almost smiling at him once. Did we do this on my birthday? Woodrow said that when there was a quiet moment. Then, seeming to regret his boldness, he tucked his head into his plate and he blushed scarlet. So he like is enjoying himself so much he wants to do this on his birthday, but he's embarrassed by saying that out loud. There came a chorus of replies. Certainly, of course, naturally. When's your birthday, Woodrow? I said. January 1st, Woodrow said, smiling with pleasure at all his attention. Or December 31st. Mama never knew for sure. I was born right on the stroke of midnight, New Year's Eve, 1942. Right on the stroke? Mama said. Mama never told us that. Well, she told me lots of times. She told me that story so many times I know it by heart. A midwife was with her, and she was having a real hard time. Does anyone know what a midwife is? Midwife. No. So back in the day, when women were pregnant, they used to have a woman who would come into the house and called a midwife, and she would basically help women deliver the baby. Um, this was kind of common. A little crazy story. I keep telling you like these crazy stories. A little bit of background. The reason why hospitals are kind of safer now, and is because of hand washing. So back in the day, when people were giving birth and they went to the hospital, a lot of women would die, and a lot of the babies would die, and they could never figure out why are all these pregnant women dying, and why are all these babies dying. And the reason was because the doctors would be operating on like dead bodies, and then they would go not wash their hands, not clean anything, and then they would go and deliver the baby. So all the diseases from all dead people would be spread to the baby and whatever, and it would kill them. And they noticed that the midwives would never have the same problem, right? All the midwives would have these babies and they would be fine. So they realized, oh, it's got these dead bodies must have something in them. So they because of that, they wind up using lime was like the first thing they started. So they used lime to like sanitize their hands to kill all the bad diseases or whatever. Background how midwives existed. She was trying and trying to birth me, but I wouldn't come. Finally, Mama passed out from all the pain and she went out of her body. Then she felt peaceful and free. She said she drifted around the room and could see the midwife in her own body on the bed. Then she realized she wasn't alone. Another person was there floating around her. It seemed like it was somebody who just arrived from far away. And it was somebody she felt like she used to know 1,000 years ago in another place. And Mama said to that person, oh, it's you. I've waited for you. I've missed you so much. What took you so long? And the person said, I couldn't get away. They just now let me go, but here I am. So let's get started. Then Mama came to herself and she heard the clock strike midnight. And I was born all at the same. Who do you think she met? My Mama said breathlessly. I looked at her and all the others in her eyes and Woodrow. The wine and cake were forgotten in this fascination of his story. Why, it was me, Woodrow cried joyfully, me. There was complete silence as we digested what he had just said. A shiver ran up my spine as I thought what a strange story this was. Suddenly there was a ring and we all jumped like we were shot. Right, so he tells this story which is kind of like freaky and like odd, right? It's like almost like supernatural. He has this experience of their mother birth that she's having a hard time, passes out, leaves her body, and is like talking to Woodrow's spirit or whatever you might want to call it, whatever. So this kind of freaks out all these people. Um, then we laughed nervously as Mama ran to answer the phone. It was for Doc Doc. Somebody was having a fit up on Grassy Lake, and he had to go see about him. The party scattered when he left. The twins curled up on the couch and went to sleep while the women cleared up the dishes. And Grandpa and Porter commenced discussing President Eisenhower. Woodrow and I went to feed Dog, then we sat in the swing on Grady's tremendous porch. It was a still, clear night. The moon was full and there were millions of stars. The mountains loomed over us like friendly giants, that's a simile, and we could hear the frogs having a spring clean down the creek. This is the day I will choose, Woodrow said softly. Choose for what? I was about ready to turn in. Mama told me when we die, We're allowed to live one day over again, just one, exactly as it was. This is the day I'll choose. I was surprised. A day that for me had only been slightly special was the most wonderful day of his life. It made me wonder how bad things had been in Bridge. Right, so she's feeling a little bit of compassion there for Woodrow, seeing that his life wasn't that great, that celebrating somebody's birthday was his best thing. Then we talked real serious about the pagan babies over there across the ocean dying of diseases, about what those poor folks in New York City who were living practically stacked on top. In Russia, they had gobs of people living together in one little bitty house. If you complained, they had you hold off to Siberia to live in an igloo and see how you liked that. Both of us said we felt real lucky to live right here on Resident Street. I wonder how my mama could ever have left here to marry my dad and go live up there with him, Woodrow said. It seems like this beautiful place has everything you could ever want, and nothing but you. So here you can obviously see that Woodrow is like really loving the fact that he's living with his family. He doesn't understand why his mom left him. Right, so I'm gonna